What's up, you guys? Welcome to another BB Talk with me, Janelle, and my BB, Ray.
Whoa.
For those of you who don't know, we are a couple, both going through...
We are? I'm just kidding.
Both going through our health and fitness journey, specifically weight loss.
You've officially lost 10 pounds over the last...
Since August.
Few months?
Yeah, since August of 2024, and it's currently February of 2025. But yeah, I've lost 10 pounds naturally, no performance enhancers, like no Ozempic.
No caffeine.
No caffeine. I've increased muscle mass. This wasn't just like 10 pounds of water weight or 10 pounds of muscle. This was just body recomping towards the direction that I actually wanted. I really wanted to be able to help at least one person or anyone watching this video to not make the same mistakes that I did in my health and fitness journey. I figured out a lot of things the hard way, and it took a lot longer to lose 10 pounds than it needed to be, which is not a bad thing because obviously it's my own journey, but I just want to give people some actionable advice that you don't always hear from the oversaturated amount of fitness videos that you see.
True. Yeah. Cool. Gotcha. So what inspired you to like go down your fitness journey?
After getting off Adderall, I had gained roughly 50 pounds of fat. I didn't like where my life was going, and I just know how good life can be when you feel your most confident. But every step was necessary, and in order for me to appreciate where I am now, I had to experience that. People always say like love yourself and accept yourself. I maintain a sense of love for myself, but it's like, do you really love yourself when you're allowing yourself to go off the rails? There's this girl on TikTok, her name is Minza, whatever, but her delivery on like losing weight is that like it's okay to be skinny and to want to look your best or whatever, but then a lot of people are saying that is encouraging eating disorders. And she was saying that if you think me pushing health and portion control and watching what you eat is an eating disorder, then America's like totally, you know, what's the word?
Yeah. I mean, if you're eating and you're getting like super fat, that's also an eating disorder.
Right.
Like, that's not normal eating, you know? So
yeah,
everything is an eating disorder. You know what I'm saying? The only eating disorder that is not an eating disorder is the eating order, which is just eating just better, cleaner, you know?
Yeah.
Eating what you're supposed to.
I had to actually be real with myself and be like, I actually don't want to be like this and I don't feel beautiful. Telling women that it's okay to be, not that it's okay to be overweight, but it's okay to have these binge eating habits and like, I don't know.
Yeah, who encourages these things? Like who encourages these like eat whatever you want? Like who are these people?
It's not eat whatever you want. It's like accept your body the way it is, even like if you're
so
obese.
who's saying this absolute garbage?
Just people on the internet.
Just influencers?
Yeah.
And can we agree that telling people that, oh, just be who you are and all of that is just absolute garbage? Like, because that's not inspiring people to be best.
Right. So, and I'm not saying like I think these people are like, you know, the worst people on earth. It's just like the messaging of like we're glorifying being overweight. I don't support that.
Yeah, no,
that's what I'm saying.
I fully agree with you. Whoever's encouraging this body positivity, and it's not body positivity at all.
That's the word, body positivity. I was like, I don't know what the word is, but
body delusion is what that is.
And I'm looking at that more of like a personal thing, in that like I don't want the messaging because it influences what I think. So you know, I can't control what other people do, but like as for me, like I have to hold myself to a higher standard, so I can't be like looking at these people as role models, basically.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
That's what I mean by all that.
Of course, yeah, 100%, yeah. There are certain terms that you're like just not cool with.
Oh, skinny, yeah.
Like, for example, like skinny was like the biggest one.
I think that's something to talk about.
That's an interesting thing because like I've always associated like skinny with like just like a positive trait. But I remember like this is maybe like a few months ago, like when we figured this out. But I remember when I would say the word skinny, it would really trigger you. Do you remember why that triggered you, and what was the thing that snapped you out of the fact that it's just a damn word?
Yeah, I guess for context, like we were probably talking about, I don't even know, but you said I look skinny or something, I don't even know, something like that. And then like I guess I didn't like him using those words because it made me feel a type of way. And that just comes from like my previous experiences with the word, because growing up, for lack of a better word, I was skinny. But I think it's it's for sure because my dad would always say that I'm skinny to where like I look sick, and would just think, he would say that like I would blow away in the wind because I was so like I was a stick. A stick. Anything like stick and skinny, those words just they used to trigger me so much because
Yeah.
those were words that were used to make me feel lesser than. And that's where all that comes from.
That makes sense. So just negative associations with the words.
Yeah, through
That's
bullying.
interesting. Okay, yeah. If anybody has any negative associations with any words regarding weight, then I think it would be best to just like really identify where that comes from.
Yeah.
It's understandable that you went through that, you know.
Thank you.
Of course, it just is what it is, you know. The lessons came with that too, right? Words are just words, you know what I'm saying? And like other people may have other experiences. Maybe they were taught to have these adverse reactions to these words. For example, like whenever a baby is born,
Yeah.
no baby is
words
inherently hateful or racist or anything like that.
You're taught those things.
They're taught those things, right? So I think at like a very young age, we are taught that if somebody says like this word, I should feel this way.
And that is true.
Yeah, and like that's understandable. However, I feel like once they understand that it's just words, now it's a choice. As much as we are also taught to have reactions to certain words, we can also unteach ourselves and just teach ourselves that I'm not going to be affected by words. You know what I'm saying? I could be having the best day ever, and if somebody says like you have Asian eyes or whatever, that will never put me down. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
That's actually a good point because and that kind of circles back to what we were talking about because I had to, recondition my definition of what skinny meant to me. And I think that in itself is something that could help someone. You could admit that you want to be skinny because I think I had resistance towards that. I resisted like even saying those words, like I want to be skinny, because I felt like it wasn't right, but that is what I wanted all along.
Yeah, of course.
So I want to be fucking skinny. Like that's just the truth.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I want to be healthy, or I am healthy, but I want to be the healthiest version and always work towards that throughout my life.
Of course, you want to be able to accept as many words in that realm as possible to mostly mean positive things. Whether it's like skinny or like healthy, or like these should all equally mean the same thing, which is a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
So for you, was it really just like the experience you had with those words? What was the thing that changed your mind into like, okay, now this is a positive thing. I'm not going to let the past kind of like dictate how I feel about this now.
I had to realize like the girls that I look up to, they're skinny. Like that is what it is. So it's like I had to just be honest with myself. So
the equivalence, so like in Germany, for example, the term like skinny, if you were to translate it, it's just like thin.
Yeah.
So like in Germany, like you would just, it's a compliment when you tell somebody, hey, you're thin. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like here, it's like when I hear the word thin,
it's not.
I associate it with like drug dealers and like drug takers who don't eat and like, just do meth and shit.
Like malnourished.
Yeah, like malnourished, like thin. You know, thin is also like a good word. It like to me, it means efficiency.
Yeah.
You know, like minimum body fat for the maximum like muscle. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but okay, cool. So that's interesting. So you had to make the decision. What inspired you to make that decision though? Because I think it's very important to get all our definitions correct and get them right before we can like move forward and talk about our experience so that like everybody knows the words that we are saying, what they mean to us.
Yeah. And we don't think we're just like being these like,
And then maybe the person who's watching this can be like, okay, well,
like, why do I have a resistance to that word as well?
Exactly. Yeah. For example, if I were to say like, you're way skinnier than you were like a few months ago,
like
that should mean just positive.
Right. And but a lot of them can take that out of context and be like, what the fuck, you know?
Okay, and that's very interesting because I can't understand that.
Yeah, but I know, and that's like also, I recognize that's also me overthinking of like how other people are perceiving. Anyway, that's like my OCD coming out. But anyway, like your question is what made me decide to just redefine what those words mean.
Yeah, what gave you the gas to make that decision? Because I think
it's what you said. It's like I don't really want these words to have so much emotional weight on me because. What's the point of that?
Yeah, I'm glad you made that decision because like whenever I say words, whatever words they are, they always come from a loving place.
Yeah.
Whether I say you're like getting skinnier or like you're super thin, or like if I were to say like you're so like you've become so skinny you would blow away in the wind, I would mean all of those things was just like loving type of energy.
Or like joking.
Because it's always relative to where it used to be. You know what I'm saying? Like if you blow away in the wind now, that's way better than you having used to be a barn. You know what I'm saying? That being said, what prevented you from losing those 10 pounds in the beginning? Like why did it take, because for context, we got a lifetime membership in April last year, about 9 months ago. And it wasn't until like August, September, October, I would say like November, December-ish, where it like really started to make sense for you. What was preventing you from losing those 10 pounds before August?
Preventing me. Okay. It's like I would feel like I went to the gym every day. I would feel like I'm making healthier choices, but because my portions were either too big or I was just eating, I was snacking throughout the day, everything just kind of canceled out to where I would do all these new things, like try new workout classes, try new food that seems healthier, but the mass still wasn't, there was still no deficit.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it wasn't until I actually started tracking, not necessarily every single thing, but at least like my calories and my protein, and even like tracking my workouts, like how much I'm actually burning. I had to eat 1,300 calories daily because I've never done that. And then in my mind, whenever I saw that number, 1,300, I'm like, that's like nothing. Like that means I eat nothing.
Yeah.
But I finally found a way to eat creatively where I feel like I'm eating till I'm satisfied, but the calories equal 1,300 because I'm eating whole foods. Instead of rice, I'm eating cauliflower rice. A cup of rice is, I think, like 200 calories. A cup of cauliflower rice is 30 calories. So I'm eating the same volume, but the calories are different. So that's what had to click in order for me to actually lose the weight. I'm not starving myself. I'm not actually really eating less. I mean, in a way, sometimes I allow myself to feel, I don't even want to call it hunger, but feel uncomfortable. Whereas before, I always felt like I had to feel like I was fed. Those were just the mind shift changes that had to happen, but also the habits that had to happen. Because if I was doing this just say Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends I'm just eating Cheesecake Factory and like doing all this other stuff, then it would also cancel out. So the consistency had to play a part of like, I'm doing this every day now. But I had to create what works for me by choosing the workouts that I love and then the foods that I love that all fit within my deficit. So,
I remember there was a situation like maybe like a little over a month ago or so. This is gonna sound so bad, but I literally had to tell you to stop eating, like put the fork down, because I remember you were like literally you're eating and you're halfway done with the meal, and it was like a big meal too, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortabably full, and like you literally kept shoveling that shit in, and after just like seeing that, like I remember I was just like, hey, you can't, if you're feeling like so full already, like you're literally about to burst at the seams, like would it be okay if you just like put down the fork and just like stop eating? And you're like, yeah, okay, sounds good, and you would keep,
because it was in front of me.
Yeah. So
out of habit.
So what was that habit, and did you overcome that, and how did you overcome that?
Right. So even though I'm still eating till I'm satisfied, I did have to admit to myself that I had episodes of overeating. I'm not going to say I was a binge eater, even though that very much could, check out. But I would have episodes of just overeating because that was my coping mechanism in the past to make me feel good. I was an emotional eater. And I got in the habit of just finishing everything on my plate, regardless of how many calories are on that. If it's on my plate, I'm going to finish it. So I had to realize that if I want to actually be in a deficit, I don't need to be maxing out my daily calories if I'm full. So if I'm full, I don't need to eat more. But I had to overcome that habit by, I think, just recognizing in the moment that, okay, I'm full. I need to like put this away, like out of sight, out of mind. So your question is like, how did I overcome it?
Well, let's ask the first question is like, where does that come from? Like, yes, it's like emotional eating and all that stuff, but where does that stem from? What was the origin of
I think I've talked about this before, but my parents are Filipino. Growing up, I was forced to finish everything on my plate because if I didn't, it was rude because there are kids in the Philippines that can't eat. That was literally what it is.
Classic.
And they would like remind me of that every day. And not only that, it's like, it's disrespectful to my mom's cooking and just all these things. So I was just, if I didn't finish my food, I would literally get in trouble. Like I would get spanked, I would get yelled at. So I always had that association. And it's like what you said earlier, kids are taught this because I remember I would be eating, and just so that I could appease my parents, I would make it look like I finished my food, but I would like spit that up in the bathroom. Yeah, because I was like, I'm not actually hungry. I don't want to eat this. But then as time went on, I made food, the pleasure of eating food, a way to overcompensate my depressed emotions. Because there was a time when during my celibacy and just not having friends, the happiest time of the day was when I would just eat like a dessert or I would have dinner because of the dopamine that the food would give me. So that was where those habits started. And then now I had to make the conscious decision that I no longer get dopamine and my fix from eating. I get that from creating content. I get that from the high I get from a Pilates class. So I think those, being mindful and making the decision, like I still have times where I do overeat, but I don't guilt myself and I give myself grace. But every time that I overcome that, I'm better than I was the last time. Not just like overeating, but I'm practicing being present when I eat, along with eating slower. So yeah, those are just like little things that have helped me, but I had to make the decision that I no longer overeat and I no longer use food as a means to make me happy.
That's a good one. And that sounds like it came straight from like the power of habit.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can't change the trigger or your reward for a habit.
Right.
You can only change the routine.
I have the same habits. It's just we've changed the process. I still have sweets, except instead of having a sprinkles cupcake that is like 1,000 calories each, I'll make a protein cupcake. It's literally changing the process, like you said.
Yeah. For anybody that hasn't like read the book basically talks about habits and what they actually are. And even like Bashar would say that like a habit is something that you're doing that you don't know that you're doing. And so basically the book outlines the fact that like a habit is three separate events. It's the trigger, something that triggers the habit, the routine, the thing that you actually do, and then the dopamine hit, the reward, the dopamine hit of having done the routine. Even though like environment plays a big factor, if you know that you can't change the trigger and you can't change the reward, that means you have to change the routine. That's the only thing you can actually change. A big thing that helped me quit like nicotine vaping. And the thing is like it's never about like the actual nicotine or the actual like whatever that you're vaping. It's whatever this motion is. The oral fixation of it, you know. It's like taking the thing to your mouth. Like people that smoke cigarettes don't do cigarettes for the love of the game. You know what I'm saying? They do it because they get a dopamine hit by taking the butt and putting it in their mouth, you know what I'm saying? And then like dragging it, you know. And then it's also solidified by the nicotine and being addictive, blah, 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 all that stuff. But that being said, like for me, once I knew that, okay, I can't change the thing that triggers me wanting to smoke nicotine or vape it, and I can't change the dopamine hit I get from doing so, I can only change the thing that I'm actually hitting. So instead of hitting a nicotine vape, what I would do is I would hit like a CBD vape from the CBD store here in Texas. And that satisfied that, whatever that itch for me to like slowly like wean off the one thing.
The lesser evil.
Yeah, and get on to like another routine. Still getting the triggers and the rewards, but doing so with a routine that's less damaging, basically.
Wow.
So you can't change the trigger, you can't change the dopamine hit, you can only change the routine. So the routine that you do to get that dopamine hit, right? So in your case, it sounds like instead of going for the routine of eating these decadent like foods, you started like switching them out with like chocolate covered almonds that are organic and, you know, like other little like, you know, like more protein based like things that are good for like those muffins that you made, those protein muffins, they absolutely slayed. I never like muffins because just one bite of a muffin typically is enough to immediately make me full and immediately make me feel like I'm just eating empty carbs, right? But like that protein muffin, like I actually smashed like more than half of them. It was actually really good. So that's really good. That's a fantastic turn of events.
I think that is one of the biggest things that helped me lose the first 10 pounds and that will continue to help me lose the rest. I feel like people say this all the time, but they don't expand on what they say. You don't ever have to stop eating the foods you love. You could still lose weight and have pizza. You could still lose weight and have chicken Alfredo. You could still lose weight and have chocolate. I had this misconception that when you know, you're losing like 50 pounds or whatever, like a big amount of weight, you have to just be a new person. You have to cut everything off. But it doesn't have to be that way, because if you're creative enough, you can figure out a way to make these foods. It will satisfy you in the same way. but it's just, it doesn't have all these other additives and it's not packed with all these calories. So I wish I had known that. If you have like a lot of weight to lose, you look at it and you're like so daunted by it and overwhelmed. It's like, I can't even lose like a pound. Like how the fuck am I supposed to lose 100 pounds? So it's like, you can make it fun and you can make it something that you fall in love with. And that's kind of how you fall in love with yourself, because like whenever I cook these things, I feel like love points are added like in my head, because I really did that. I really figured out a way to make muffins that are high protein, that satisfy my sweet tooth and make you happy, versus like eating something that I feel guilty about and wanting to like, you know, spit it up or whatever. So it could be fun. So, and it will be fun if you decide.
That's true.
So
and it's also just like losing weight in itself is just also like super overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because you literally have to change like 3 things at the same time. You have to change your entire diet. You have to change all your exercise habits.
Your sleep.
You actually have to build consistency in going to the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like all those 3 things need to happen at the same time, you know, in order for you to actually become more healthy. I think the epitome of healthy is really just like the ability to take in carbs and exercise them out, you know, and doing so efficiently. Because like, a lot of like weight gain happens when we're just hoarding carbs most of the time, because like all the protein gets used all the time. Like for me, the biggest thing, so I'm like really into like numbers and math. So I was like, okay, we got calories, we got protein, we got fats, we got carbs. Like I have to keep track of 4 numbers in my head at all times.
Yeah.
So every time I eat something, I'm just like, I have to add 20 grams of this, I have to add this what was that number? Yeah, I'm saying like,
is that math equation meme?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was literally me. I whipped out my notes. I tried writing it down. I was just like, I can't seem to just like, I can't seem to get to a point where I'm keeping track of everything. And like MyFitnessPal is great and everything, but like a lot of the times I have to manually enter everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like the biggest thing for me was just like, I do not care about calories. I don't care about fats. I don't care about carbs. I care about getting all the protein in that I have to get in, which for me is a minimum of 200 to 240, because I'm fucking fat. I'm just kidding. I'm just massive. Like I'm 245. I was literally 265. Like at the beginning of last year. A year ago I was 265. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's like a lot of water weight, but it's like
still weight.
Yeah, exactly. Like I literally like I just have to care about protein. You know? MyFitnessPal works great if you're entering everything, and then it does the math for you, and then seeing the little circles, blah blah blah. All that's fantastic. It needed to be simpler. I can't be on my phone 24/7 entering goddamn food articles all the damn time.
Yeah.
It would start to just like piss me off, because I'm just like I'm literally just on my phone the entire day eating on my phone. I'm just like I don't like this. So I just started counting protein. So whenever I eat something, I'm just like, okay, this pizza from Trader Joe's has 30 grams of protein. 30, perfect. That's a number I can keep track of in my head. I may be in a surplus. I may be overeating carbs here or eating a lot of fat here, but we're going to the gym, we're exercising. I need protein. Protein comes from the word proteus, which I believe is Latin for first rank, which basically means like
Did you know that?
Protein needs to be your like the first rank
Priority.
your priority. It's the most important thing that will actually allow you to build. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just
Building blocks.
Yeah, you can't just like decide you want to build a castle and then you have the whole crew set up, your organs, your body, your cells, and then you're like, okay, here's 2 logs and 4 stones, build me a castle. You're not giving them enough raw materials. Carb is just a form of energy, you know? Biggest thing about like weight loss is also just knowing that it's possible and just knowing that it can be easy. Because like we're still eating pizzas like every week.
Because we make
just
them.
Yeah,
Low calorie.
we just change out the dough for a tortilla.
A low carb
Boom,
tortilla.
1/10 the carbs, you know what I'm saying? So, and then we make it with a barbecue sauce. Ooh, so good.
Yeah.
So like, it's possible to do all of these things, you know?
In a way that you like it.
Yeah, and just knowing that it's possible,
Yeah.
for me was like the biggest thing that like helped me just like intuitively do the math, you know?
Yeah.
So, but what was that equivalent experience for you?
Once we figured out how to automate the things that made it hard. So I felt really overwhelmed when what you said, it's like when you have to log in all this food and you're like, what the fuck do I even eat today? Like on top of you have like a 9 to 5 and then you have to also work out and then you have to do like XYZ and all these things. So once we identified, okay, what are the things that are really like preventing us, like that hold a lot of like, what is it? Like once we identified, okay, Food and working out. Those are the things that need to be optimized and automated. And once we automate those things, it's as if like this whole thing will just be easier. So it was the meal prepping, because we always had the intention to meal prep, but every time we tried, I don't know what it was. It's like maybe the food that I made, I didn't like it and I didn't want to eat the third day. But I remember specifically the first thing that I feel like started the meal prep to make it easier is we literally just went to Home Goods and we bought the same glass containers, and we bought like huge. 14 of them or something like that.
Yeah, 8.
And it was necessary.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, I want to just try to make it work with what we have. But it's like, for me, I'm a visual person, and we had cleaned the fridge out of like all the things that, you know, weren't going to help us. And we just made the fridge look really nice with all like our meal prep stuff. And we also made it to where like we have no choice but we have to eat that. So we threw away any foods that would deter us from eating our meal preps. Had I know what foods I was gonna make, I just thought, what are the foods that I love? I love poke bowls. I love pizza. So we just focused on, okay, let's just meal prep for the next 3 days. And this is my process. If I like something, I just look it up on TikTok, how to make a low calorie pizza. And then I'll literally copy that recipe, and that will be my meal for the next 1 to 2 days. What made it easy for me is I found packaged lunches. This is not the most environmentally friendly thing, but this just works. I buy those tuna cracker packages from Target. They're already made, and that is like mostly my lunch. And then I'll just add in a protein yogurt. So packaged foods help a lot, along with protein shakes that are already made, because I have to minimize the steps. Like we just made all these things so much easier for us by removing any type of friction. The workouts, I was overwhelmed because it's like, even though I knew I'm doing a push-pull split, sometimes even though if I had a plan on my Notion or whatever, I didn't build the discipline to be like, okay, even though I feel like shit today, I'm gonna do this whole workout. And most people would be like, okay, but just do it. But there's another solution, and that's where I found Pilates. Because when you go to Pilates, it doesn't matter if you're tired, you're in a class, so you're gonna, like through osmosis, you're gonna keep up. And because there's an instructor, you're gonna follow what the instructor does. So you don't have to use the brain power of, okay, I gotta do 3 RDLs and like I gotta go to squat. Like, you're just gonna do it because she's teaching you. So once I started implementing the Pilates classes, that changed everything for me, because it's like, I would get off my 8-hour shift, be tired as fuck, but then I would just go to Pilates knowing that I could shut my brain off and just do it, versus before I had to like coach myself and be like, okay, like we gotta do this like 8-step workout routine that I don't even want to do, and I don't have the, you know. So automating the workouts and the meal plan and the meals,
yeah, that
was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, it was just like taking like the packaging of the groceries and dividing them up equally to make the math so easy. Like the craziest thing that just made too much sense for me is I will go to like at Costco, they have these protein chips and they have protein Quest chips, which are basically like Doritos.
They're so good.
And like each package comes with 8 servings that are 15 grams of protein each. So what I would do is I would buy those packagings of like 8 servings, open it up, and then I would just weigh it out by grams, like, and put it in a Ziploc bag. So I know each Ziploc bag is 15 grams of protein. Smart. It's like, you have to make the meal prep easy for you, easy enough for you to do the math with your head, and then there'll be no more friction. Because it's just like, okay, cool, like I need 30 more grams of protein, I'll just grab 2 Ziplocs and it's done. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a component of organizing and like breaking it up into smaller units, and that's what is like one of the biggest keys also. Yeah, and even to step it up, like I would go to Target sometimes and I would just buy the chips that I like that are already portioned, so you don't even have to do all that stuff. That's great. So like, it's those little things that will save you a couple minutes, but it will just make you like, you don't have to think as much, and then you can focus on other things. Yeah. So that's huge. Yeah, I remember we talked about this analogy of like when I was in high school, I wanted to be like a metal guitarist and singer at the same time. And while I was learning how to sing and like play guitar at the same time, you realize that like one thing is fully committed to muscle memory, and the other thing you're consciously doing. Like playing guitar, that was conscious, that was playing guitar was committed fully to muscle memory. I could literally have a conversation while playing something, right? That's what muscle memory is. It's like my muscles have the programming. I don't need to consciously tell them, put my fingers here, you know? And then you can consciously focus on just singing. And so it's kind of like the same thing with like exercising and like doing, like, you have to find a way to make everything around you muscle memory.
Yeah.
So that you can just focus on the thing that you consciously need to think about, which is actually which is actually just showing up at the gym most of the time.
Yeah.
And then come like figuring out your routine and figuring out what you're gonna do, or if you're gonna work out or take a class or whatever. And it's just like automating those things. As much as possible, you have to take every piece of conscious thinking out of the equation to automate everything.
Make your life easier.
And then your life becomes that ease, basically.
Exactly.
So that's a big thing. So like whenever we look at like packaging, it's like first look at the protein. If there's too much protein, just divide it up, and then just making it so easy for you to do the math that it's basically brainless, basically. But that being said, I'm just gonna ask you like one last question, which is now that you've lost 10 pounds, how will you lose the next 10 pounds?
Literally doing the same thing that I'm doing.
Easy.
Creating a schedule. I have to do this still, but like in your mind, it's like, oh, I have a schedule. But I think, like, since I said we're visual people, I think whenever you have these things printed out, like somewhere you see every day, to where you don't have to think about it, like until you get to the habit of, okay, today's Monday Pilates, tomorrow we're doing push, you know? So having a schedule, and then with the meal prep, right now we're trying to meal prep like just twice a week. So we'll have like a designated day where, let's say Sunday, we'll meal prep for the next 3 days, and then Wednesday we'll rinse and repeat. So I think having everything scheduled, that's what moving forward to my next weight loss goal is. I really want to perfect the schedule to where I literally just wake up and my body is just like going to that class or whatever.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the only way to make your life easier and feel like you're not doing 10,000 things is to have 999 things be automated, so you can focus on the one thing you need to consciously do.
Right. Because this first phase of losing the initial 10 pounds, this was like the discovery phase. Discovering what foods I loved, discovering how to make them.
The kicking and screaming phase.
Yeah, like the trial and error phase.
Yeah.
So now, thank God, I feel like we've pushed through most of that. Now this is the part of we could actually practice the consistency. Because I feel like that's what people don't talk about. It's like they always say be consistent, but it's like you have to go through this bullshit first to be consistent. And if you make your life easier, then it's easier to be consistent.
Yeah.
But if you have all these things happening, like I feel bad for even people that have kids. It's like that, of course it's hard, because it's like, how can you even be consistent when you don't even know what to be consistent with?
Yeah.
So
I think a good question to answer is, what is consistency? I think consistency is just consciously focusing on habits until they are muscle memory, basically.
Yeah,
that's what consistency is. Because like consistency, like if somebody says like, oh, just like, work on your consistency, what the fuck does that even mean?
When people say that. It's like,
what does that mean?
Yeah.
it's like all the other shit that they say is just like, oh, like like girls love to say this a lot. It's like, just love yourself. What the fuck does that mean?
Can you elaborate on what that means, please?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like what any of this advice that are like headline advices.
Yeah.
What does it actually mean? And so, like, to me at least, consistency just means like consciously having to go through the bullshit and like the conscious efforts. Like, I'm putting calories and brain power towards accomplishing this one thing until it's muscle memory, and I don't have to think anymore.
That's a great definition.
So like for me, for example, like I go to the hot tub all the time for recovery at Lifetime. And so at first I was like, okay, like okay, I'm get a towel. Do I have to get my clothes ready before going to the shower? You know what I'm saying? And it's just, okay, now I just go to the shower with a towel. I, shower up there. I come back, and then like, do I dry off my what do I dry off first? You know what I'm saying? It's like when you're in the shower, for example, I can guarantee that when you're like drying yourself off with a towel, you have your same routine that you do every time you dry yourself off. And the only reason I know that is because I have that exact same thing. Like I always do like head first, then the back, then the arms, then, you know what I'm saying? Like everyone has like these set things that they consciously at one point had to consciously focus calories and thoughts onto. Yeah. And then once they've done it enough, it's just like, okay, I just know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Give me a towel, that's all I need. I know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? That's what consistency is. Yeah. It's solidifying conscious effort. And once it's solid, you'll never forget it as long as you keep doing it, right?
That's a great definition.
What is consistency? It's that.
Yeah.
To me, at least.
Yeah. And then to me, it's similarly, these two words popped up. It's having a pristine routine, literally.
Nice.
Just like, and that's when I was the most consistent in my life prior to the stage I am now, was when I was in dance and I was competing and I had a coach, but we would show up the same time every day. And even down to our uniforms, like we had 5 uniforms that we would wear. So one on Monday would be like all black, Tuesday, whatever. So it's like, even down to the clothing, I realized I do the same thing. I wear like the same clothing every day, different days of the week. So I don't have to think about it. Who was it? Steve Jobs. He had like he wore the same outfit or something.
Yeah, same
every
turtleneck,
day.
same jeans, because the less decisions you have to make in a day,
the less decisions you have to make.
Yeah, the less decisions you have to make in the day, the more you can focus on making more important decisions.
Yeah, so it's kind of the same thing what you said, but that is what I think about, and that is what I'm focusing on for this next 10 pounds, is to make that even more easier. Once you lose that first 10 pounds, it's the same thing, you just scale it. But with that, before I forget, big thing that I highly recommend for anyone is to get Notion or have some sort of system or planner where whenever you have these like light bulb moments, you have to write it down and be able to reference it, because it's one thing to, like, for me, it's like with the workouts. It's like one day you'll have a great leg day and it'll be like, that was a great leg day. But if you never write that down, you're probably not going to remember to do that again. So, or same with like cooking. It's like, that was a good meal. If you don't write that down, then you're not going to remember how to make this and you're going to have to do this thing all over again. So I think for me, tracking is such a big thing now. I was not a tracker before because I felt like it was too many steps. But when you do the hard thing first, it's like less effort later. So tracking how you make the foods that you love and then tracking the workouts you love, those are huge.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And if you need to spend money on the tools to get this done,
invest.
That is actually what's like self-love and self-investment is. This is what it means to invest in yourself.
That's what that means. Yeah.
That's literally what that means. Another thing that girls like to say is, oh, you should invest in yourself. What does that mean? That's what that means.
Right.
It means spending money on the things that make your life easier for you to accomplish goals that are an investment of yourself.
Right. Get the lifetime membership, get the MyFitnessPal premium, get the fucking Pilates class. These are the things that you do. And then if you're like, I don't have the money, girl, you have the money. Stop doing your nails. Do your own nails.
Yep.
If you have to get like some sort of second job, sell those feet. I'm just kidding. Like, you reevaluate the budget, because we're making this happen on, like, at least I'm on my end, I'm making this happen on a tighter budget, and you can too. So, and that's like the purpose of my channel. I feel like it's easier said than done, but I want to be able to show you guys how, like, put it into visuals on how I'm doing this. But there are things probably in your budget that you can eliminate that will allow you to take the dance class or do whatever. Yeah. And for me, that was like doing my own nails and
if whoever like needs money to do something, you can either make more money or you can spend less money. And spending less money is far easier than making more money. That's a little bit harder. Too. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, if you keep saying shit like, oh, I don't have the money, stop doing shit that's taking money out of your pocket and put it towards a self-investment.
Yeah, stop going out. I mean, you can socialize with your friends, but like, watch some shows at home instead of like going out and buying drinks at the club. Like, there are, adjustments that can be made. Those are all like good talking points on like how our journey so far, but I really want to be able to show you guys what it all means and like do meal prep videos and all those things. But yeah, that's it.
Sounds good. Cool.
If you all have any questions on anything, let us know, because we just want to help. And yeah.
Sounds good. We'll see you in 10 pounds.
Period.